Okay, this video is designed for the workshop in oil painting to save a little bit of time and for you to be able to go back to this video in the end if you forgot something. And let's just start with the colors and the double primaries. So let's start with the lightest ones, that are the yellows. So this one is a cadmium yellow light, and it is presumed that it is a cool color because it leans towards the green. So you will be able to make a nice bright green with this yellow, okay, because it's already biased towards the green. This one is a very nice cadmium yellow, and you'll see it's a very warm yellow. Now all of these descriptions of the temperature of the colors are relative, and you'll see when we work with it, and I'll explain it a little bit better, then you'll understand why I say that, because the lemon yellow will even be cooler than this yellow here. And the middle, some of the brands of the cadmium yellows aren't as orange as this one. So you'll see this one is a lot warmer than that one in comparison. But as a whole, yellow is a warm color. But in this relationship, this one is the cooler one and that's the warmer one. Now, you don't have to have one that is that orange, okay? So it doesn't have to be that warm. And if you only bring one yellow, the yellow that I prefer is the cadmium yellow light or yellow pale, because it's very versatile and can mix quite nicely. Now, the cadmium reds, there are a few other reds that are also considered warm. So the cadmium reds, especially the cadmium red light, if I put it down here, you'll see it's almost like a dark orange or a red orange. So sometimes the vermilion is also used as a warm red. And this one is also a cadmium red light. Let me just have a look at this one. It's quite a mission just to get this open. It's almost the same color. So you'll see the cadmium red light is a very strong color and you don't need a lot of it. And often it won't have the proper cadmium red in it. It will say hue next to it, which means it's the closest possible mix that will look like a cadmium red light, because cadmiums are really quite expensive. Now, Alizarin Crimson is your cool red. Now, there are a few reds that are this cool. So, like a Madder Lake, for instance, if you look at the Madder Lake, you will see that it's also quite a cool color. And what that means is it leans towards the purple, and this one leans towards the orange. Okay, so it's easy to remember. And say, for instance, there's rose magenta. This one is quite dry, but let's just have a look. You can see it has a similar look than that. And even the permanent geranium lake, it's almost like it's in between those two, but it's not a warm red. It's rather cool, I would say. But in value, it looks like it's like in between those two. It's not as cool as this and as dark as this, and it's not as light as this, and it's also not as warm as this. Okay, so when you bring your colors, if you're unsure, you don't have to have the exact same colors as me. So you can just ask me if you're unsure about your colors. And then I actually forgot my blue, so let me just take out my blue. Okay, so the blues I have here, there's always this thing about which one is warm, which one is cool. So some people will say the Cerulean is cool because it goes towards the green, and the Ultramarine is warm because it goes towards the reddish purple. So to me, it doesn't matter as long as you know what is the character of the color, the bias of the color. So this one is biased towards the orange, this one is biased towards the purple. This blue, it's biased towards the green. So if you mix those two that are both biased towards green, they will make the brightest green. Okay, so that's very important to take note of. Then the ultramarine is biased towards the purple, and if you use these two colors that are both biased towards the purple, it will make a very nice, a brighter purple than, say, for instance, the mix of those two or even those two. So that is important to note. I will make a video on just that. So let me just check. So this is now, that one is actually phthalo blue with white. It is already in a mix like that, and it performs very much the same as the cerulean. I thought this one was the cerulean. See, I've written it on here, but it's actually a green. So I don't know where my cerulean is at the moment. It doesn't matter. Now this one is a cyan blue and phthalo blue, are both leans towards the green. So the bias of those are green. So if you use a primary blue, which is a cyan, that will go towards the green. And cobalt is like really also like almost in the middle of it. So if I can open this one, I will show you. It just takes a bit of time to open it. Let me see if I can get my other blue. There it is. Okay, it's open now. That one. So if you look at this one, this is a cobalt blue, and that one is the ultramarine. So there you have those three colors. And let me put this one over here as well. Then you'll see that these ones goes towards the green, that one goes towards the purple, and this one is almost like in the middle. Right, so cobalt blue is also a very nice color to have. So whichever blues you bring, it is nice to have one that leans towards the cooler side and the warmer side of each. And then the browns, my go-to is normally burnt sienna, which is actually a dark orange. But if you don't have burnt sienna, then I would say bring your burnt umber or your raw umber. Now this is a burnt umber. Which is actually a dark yellow. And when I do the color mixing videos, I will go into more depth with that. And then a raw umber, but I don't have it here. I forgot to take it out. And I'll just take a white. The white that I use is titanium white. It's just a very versatile white, and I buy a good quality white. If you buy a cheap white, it normally has a lot of fillers in, and you will need more white to actually get to the right color. Okay, so I just want to see if I can get to my raw umber. Pause again. So this now is my raw umber. These are all your earth tones together with your yellow ochre, which I'm just going to put here with the yellows. And it's already the shadow color of yellow. Should you mix a yellow with a purple, you will get very close to that color. Raw sienna is also very similar to yellow ochre. It's just transparent. It's a lot more transparent. And yeah, so it's necessary to know which ones are transparent and which not. But that I will leave to the video as well. So let me quickly show you so that I don't spend too much time on it at the workshop. So say for instance, if I use my biased towards green, the lemon yellow or the yellow pale with the cerulean or the cyan, it makes for a very nice bright green. It's almost too bright. Okay, so if I will use this yellow, for instance, with the blue bias towards the purple, you will see I will have a much more muted green, which is also a little bit more natural. Okay, obviously there's a lot of variations because now you can have this yellow with this blue, and that's also going to look different. And you can have this one with this there, and you will see again you will have another color. But you can see this color is quite strong and is very, very bright. So these two that contains the cerulean or the phthalo blue is quite bright. Okay, so I tend to mix all my colors with a palette knife. It just saves my brushes a lot. So, and you will also see another tip that I got from someone is to actually use masking tape here. Now I'm painting the wrong, this will normally be the other way around, but for the demo I'm choosing to do this instead of working like that with my hand over it all the time. Okay, so that's now the one secondary color. Now the other secondary color is orange. So if I use something that's biased towards the orange, and this one that's biased towards the orange, you can see it makes a nice bright orange. Okay, the cadmium red is extremely strong, so you actually have to start with a weaker color and then add the stronger color to it. Now you don't have to remember it, you can learn it through experience. Alright, then say for instance if I use the one that goes towards the purple and the lemon yellow, there you can see it's a totally different orange and not as bright. Again, this red is very strong, so I'm going to mix it to this side. I'm not mixing it into that puddle, otherwise I will need more and more and more paint. So you can see this color is a lot more dull than that one there. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with any of the colors, it's just to take note what the color does. Now again, you can do it the other way around. You can use your bias towards the orange and the bias towards the green, and then mix that, and it makes a different kind of orange. And also you can use your yellow ochre, which is already dulled down, and then use a bit of this, and you get a very nice earthy orange color there. And you can hear that this yellow ochre has some grit in it already. It's very interesting, quite interesting. You can feel it. And then this red, remember, is very strong. So I'm only going to use a little bit of the red. And there you can see I have a very nice dark orange. Okay. Let me add some more of the yellow ochre to that. And I don't put it in the whole mix, I put it to the side. You know, I've already got two different mixes of orange. Okay. Now the other secondary color that we need is purple. So let's take the ones that are biased towards purple. So it's this blue. Now that is the Ultramarine and the Alizarin. Okay, and I'm mixing it in there. Now you can see that side is bluey purple. This is a middle purple, and then if I do it like that, this is the red purple. So now you've got three different purples from that, but they're all bright. Now if you really want a bright purple, you actually have to buy a purple or dark cerulean purple or something like that. But this is for nature, this is more than bright enough. Okay, now if I use the blue that's biased towards the green and the red that's biased towards the orange, it makes for a very, very dull color. Now, it's not named purple. it's a very dull neutral color. Now add white. I just want to show you that if you add white to this, you can see a grayish purple there, which is very, very nice. And this one here, a very, very nice turquoisey color there. So even though it's not called purple, it does make for very, very nice neutral colors. Okay, so now you can also do what we did with the others. Use this one, the one green one, with the one that's biased towards the purple. Now look at this purple. It's very different and just as beautiful. Okay. Now because purple is a dark color, it's sometimes difficult to see the real color. So if you add a little bit of white, you can actually see what the color actually looks like. The same with this. If I were to put a little bit of white there, you can see that this purple is quite bright. There, you can see it's quite a nice bright purple, where this one is a little bit more dull because one of the components is biased towards the other side. Okay, so you could also use this blue. Let me see if there's space for this, with a warm red. And it almost goes to a brown, depending on how much red is in there. Because in fact, it's almost like it has all three primaries in it. It's got blue in, and it's got red and yellow in, because it's a very close to a red orange. Okay, so now let's see what it looks like when you add white to that. Very nice dull reddish purple. And I can add a bit more blue to that, and you can get a very nice gray. So these are easy ways to actually get to gray. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the browns just yet. We can do that in another video, or on the Saturday or the day that you are coming, and let's see how that goes.